Back to the show where faith, freedom, and fierce anti-Zionism collide. I'm William Pounds, and today's program is, I suppose, a manifesto of sorts. On why I voted for Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai over Trump, Stein, and Kamala, and Oliver, and why I'm dedicating my show to turning the MAGA faithful, such as Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, Sagar and Jetty, and the rest, toward a new movement, one hosted by the very Green Party that betrayed my Jesse Ventura 2020 bid. I've watched the endless chatter about Elon Musk's so-called America Party, and let me tell you, it's no labels reincarnate. I was cast out of no labels. I'm not even going to try with this one. A bipartisan racket pitched by Wall Street consultants and AIPAC's PR machines to neuter any real populist revolt. You hear of immigration reform, cost of living fixes, even a sprinkle of regulated capitalism. But there is no funding, no backbone, and absolutely zero willingness to challenge the Zionist donors underwriting the entire show. They pamper the same military-industrial complex that props up Israel's genocidal war machine, then pretend they're radical centrists, like no labels, and like the welcome pack, who subvert my framing of abundance, the Venus Project's framing of abundance, contrary to socialist and capitalist ideology. They subvert it. They do. They subvert it. It's a cult of personality for the ultra rich. Kayfabing, cosplaying as futurists. I consider myself a futurist. These people are not futurists. They're techno oligarchs, is what they are, and it's designed to corral the discontented into dead-end committees. That's all the fuck it is. And that's just the case all around with the people who control the National Green Party, the people who control the Welcome Pack, the people who control the Welcome Fest of the Welcome Pack, and the No Labels Party, and this quote-unquote America Party, which is just a waste of time, and an even bigger waste of time than the Green Party, which I'm currently wasting my time with. And then there's the deep state narratives that, the DOJ protecting the CIA's pedophile ring has been going about. I watching the FBI burying Epstein's crimes. I've watched the clips. I've read everything that's publicly available, and that's only what's publicly available, by the way. Multiple DOJ officials trained in Bondi style, promising no open court trials lest sources and methods be exposed. But here's the truth. Sources and methods is code for Mossad assets. And APOC, APOC. I mean, it's a POC, but, whatever. A POX, but whatever. But APAC's child exploitation blackmail. They shield these monsters to protect the Israel-funded intel webs that ensnare world leaders. Let me be clear. When they cover up Epstein, they're covering up Israel's leverage over every branch of U.S. power a.k.a. the ZOG, the Zionist-occupied government, or in Arizona, the ZOA, the Zionist-occupied Arizona. Now on Ukraine, as Zelensky coined it, Little Israel, we've witnessed Trump flip-flop from stop the dying to guns, sanctions, and more guns. Even as Russia seizes lithium mines and Ukrainian stockpiles dwindle. I've watched the behind-the-scenes audio where Trump boasted of bombing Moscow, then begged off when pressed. It's the same war machine that funds Israel's wars. Patriot missiles diverted from U.S. bases, billions funneled into U.S. arms contractors' coffers, only to watch the battleground shift and the war drag on. Neither President Biden or Trump truly resisted the Zionist-armed oligarchy in America and in occupied Palestine. They merely jockey for which contracts get renewed. Simply put. And now, Bibi Netanyahu's back in D.C. His third visit this year, whose only foreign leaders spotlight Trump's craves. I've seen the clips of Bibi laughing through softballs interviews, evading questions about Gaza's children. Let's call it what it is. Genocide. Bankrolled by the U.S. taxpayers, us, against our will, by the way, and shielded by every member of Congress from both parties. We sanction the UN's courageous investigator, Francesca Albanese, I think her name is, for naming Caterpillar and Google as profiteers. Yet we let KBR, Elbit, and Raytheon walk with all our money. We attack Harvard for allowing protests against ethnic cleansing, but we protect the bulldozers that flatten entire neighborhoods. And you know what I call that? Moral rot. And I need to repeat that again for you folks. Moral rot. So after watching Trump's cheap bluster, Stein's DNC light betrayals, and Kamala's hollow condemnations, if you can even call them that, I'm proud I cast my ballot for Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai and convinced my mentor to do that as well. Why? He stood alone against AIPAC's chokehold on Arizona's elections, championed election integrity over foreign-funded voting machines, and called out both major parties for enabling the Zionist state's war crimes. Shiva's, plans are not this phony populism spun by the billionaires and by the DNC lights like Dr. Jill Stein and Howie Hawkins. I don't think that Shiva mouths the anti-war rhetoric. He doesn't act like the not-so-obvious establishment. He's built a movement to dismantle the war profiteering, pipeline at its fucking source. And so, here's our mission, or, my mission in particular, to turn the quote-unquote MAGA faithful, Candace Owen, Tucker Carlson, Sagar and Jetty, and the rest, toward an anti-Zionist, pro-sovereignty movement hosted by the Green Party. Yes, the very Green Party that sabotaged my efforts with Jesse Ventura's bid. They paid the price for compromise. Now it's time to reclaim their banner for radical independence. Picture this. My endorser, my second time endorser, Tucker, not Tucker, Louis Farrakhan, my mentor, Cynthia McKinney, who's also my second time endorser, both connected, by the way, but whatever. But also including Tucker Carlson, unshackled from Fox's Zionist advertisers, championing Gaza's children. Candace Owens, also severed from her Daily Wire advertisers, exposing AIPAC's influence on red state Republicans. Sagar, trading his centrist pablum for real populist fire, all under the green flag, if that can be accomplished, along with, Dr. Shiva's ex-wife, Fran Drescher, and my beloved Pamela Anderson, who I will always thank for that interview she granted me, and for our endless private conversations. And I am absolutely excited for our next one, especially after all the shit that I've started, and all under a flag of true environmental justice that doesn't sacrifice human dignity, election integrity, and an end to endless wars. Repealing all Iron Dome funding, conditioning aid on human rights guarantees. Really not, honestly, not giving any aid to Israel at all, and, terminating cozy military deals, investing in Arizona's and every state's solar and rural broadband. My model and Shiva's model as our answer to urban and versus rural decline. Urban versus rural decline. A decent term to highlight. Auditing every major county's voting machines. Banning corporate ownership of election infrastructure. Sanctioning war profiteering corporations, not UN investigators. And break up the military-industrial monopolies that bankroll both parties. Ending U.S. participation in foreign wars. Reducing military footprint abroad to 0%. And refocusing completely on our domestic infrastructure. America first. The true America first. Not the Zog first. That's what we get under Trump. No. America first. So, brothers and sisters, this is our movement. The chasm between MAGA's furious patriotism and the Green Party's traditional, radical independence can be bridged by one truth. We refuse to be Israel's ATM or AIPAC's lapdog. We refuse to let any billionaire, cult leader dictate our nation's soul. As we build this movement that will finally put a true America First agenda, freed from Zionist chokeholds, corporate warlords, and two-party tyranny, we're going to keep the faith, keep the light, and may the risen King guide us to true justice and true independence. Signing off. I love you all.